everything cute for me to show up today, in spite of how I was feeling. And so one of the things that we have to do is just simply be ready for those sudden happenings in our lives, whether they're good or evil. If we look back on our life, we realize that we prepare for everything else in our lives. We prepare for weddings, we prepare for births, we prepare for our children, we prepare for college, we prepare for buying our first home, we prepare for everything. Likewise, God wants us to prepare for our journey with Him. If we take a moment and we look at scriptures, we will see where in 2 Timothy 4:2, where Yeshua charges us to be prepared in season and in out of season. Matthew 25:13 says, "Watch therefore, because you know not today wherein the Son of Man is coming." He continuously warning us to be prepared for this life's journey. 1 Thessalonians 5:2 says He's coming as a thief in the night, again telling us to be prepared. Matthew 24:44 states, "For in a moment, in the twinkle of an eye," and we all know that that's quick, "at the last trumpet, for the trumpet will sound and the dead will rise imperishable, and we should be changed." When you look closer at the scriptures, you can observe examples of people's sudden experience in their lives. You can look at in 1 Samuel 16:12, when David was anointed by Samuel to become the king of Israel. If we look at Acts 9:3-13, it speaks of Paul and his sudden experience as he journeyed on the road to Damascus, and how God converted him from being a persecutor of God's children to a child of the Most High King. We look at Genesis 37-45, when Joseph's brothers threw him into a pit to die, and Joseph was rescued, sold into slavery, and through a series of events, he was lifted to the second in charge in the king's place. And in his instance, imagine your family turning against you. And from your family turning against you, you go from death to being in charge of everybody, pretty much. Yeah. So it's like on this journey, you don't know where these sudden moments are going to take you. In 2 Samuel 11, David decided to stay at home during the time of war, when men were heading off to war to fight for the kingdom. David decided he stayed at home, and in his decision to stay at home, he spotted Bathsheba, another man's wife, and he slept with her. And his kingdom was shaken because of that decision, sudden decision that he had made. And when you look at David's life, David is an example of being in a position and not being properly prepared in his heart for that position. And being properly prepared for a position, to me, it's like when you get to those sudden moments in your life, you will make the wise decision. And then there was Saul in 1 Samuel 16:14, when God removed his spirit from him after his continuous disobedience to God. As you heard, we have these sudden experiences that occur in our lives, whether we cause them or not. These experiences are needed to catapult us into new positions in life. When these sudden happenings occurs, what's in you at that point is exposed. And we all have to know there's two things that are happening when you're at that spot. You either being promoted or you're being demoted. And in order to survive the promotion experience in our lives, we need to continue to walk prayerfully with God. Because even though God promotes us, we don't know the journey that lies ahead of us. And if we stay in a prayerful position, we'll hear his voice when he gives us further directions. In order to survive a demotion in our lives, we need, basically, the way I see it is we're getting ready to go through a death, burial, and resurrection process. The death being the exposure, the emotion itself. The burial is the process of confession, admitting where you are, admitting what you did, and moving forward. The resurrection is when you have finally got it right with God, and God begins to elevate us in the process again. And as I look back in my life personally, I can recall 3 sudden experiences in my own personal life. One experience took place when I was in the middle of Kmart one season, and I opened my eyes, and it was as if darkness was all around me. And I vividly recall saying to myself, my God, well, you know, what's going on? Where am I? But at that point in my life, because of the position where I wasn't in the right position with God. I could see that everything from that point on started spiraling downwards until I got a grip of myself and realized that I need to go through the death, burial, and resurrection process. Again, another pivotal moment was in 1995. And I consider myself at that point in my life where it seems like things were going well. And it was as if the windows of God had opened in my life. And everything that I was touching seemed like it was turning to gold. It's like, at that time, it's like right shortly after I started my business, and it was like I sent out flyers to like various ministries, and I would hear the same comment on every meeting that I would go to. These ministers were saying, oh, normally we take flyers and we throw them away. But for some reason, when we got this particular brochure, we just had to hold on to it. And we had to follow suit on it, you know. So, again, at that point, basically, I was just going through the process, but I didn't take God with me prayerfully. And if you don't take God with you prayerfully, and even in your promotion, as David has had to find out the hard way, and I found out, and many other people find out that you're getting ready to go on that spiral journey again. And basically, that just brings me back to today, point in time, when you on that spiraling position, you need to do the right thing over and over and over again in order to get out of that position. And right now, I would like to open up the floor to those who have comments as far as their experience or their sudden moments.
Right. You mentioned David wasn't prepared for that position. What did you mean when you said that?
When you brought to a Y in the road and you're giving a choice to do what you're supposed to do, A, or the opposite. He decided to do everything opposite of what the kingdom and the men in the kingdom were doing. They were going off to war. He decided to stay home. So therefore, at that point, because he decided to stay home and do his own thing, he opened the door for anything to be presented to him. And he accepted it. That's why I said he wasn't ready.
So, because, okay, you're saying I stayed home, so now that means that I wasn't ready to sit on the throne. Is that what you mean?
You weren't, pretty much.
So, do you think that kings had to go on every campaign, every war campaign that was held?
Well, look at the actions. I'm just looking at his actions. I'm basing that theory based on his actions. Had another outcome, had come out of that. And that was a point in his kingdomship that everything, he fell out of favor with God.
I was just questioning the preparation. I'm questioning the preparation. You say he wasn't prepared. That's why I say that. Because I know, he was a shepherd boy watching the sheep.
Okay.
And then many times we see the sheep as symbolic as people.
Okay.
So he was in the field watching the sheep or people since he was a boy.
Okay,
So
he
this
wasn't...
is why Samuel comes in and goes to each son, and none of them had the anointing but David. Not the tall one, not the older ones, not the stronger looking and all that, but the shepherd boy, the one who's been prepared by watching the sheep. And it was 13 years before he sat on the throne. So this is why I asked you when you use this, whether he was prepared or not, what you meant.
Okay, so based on the information that you restated, I would have to say that he wasn't prepared for every situation that was going to be presented to him.
And what man is?
No one.
In this life. Yeah. Is there something that could approach all of us?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly what I mean. So.
But it goes back to what I was trying to bring out, being prepared for those sudden moments.
I think what I'm getting out of it is that your preparation is having your friendship with the Lord, so that when these sudden things come, you're able to grasp what He said.
Right, at that moment.
His instructions, and you'll be alright.
And does it say that David is the apple of my eye? So his relationship must have been tight.
But not at that very moment. Because what it seems like, God wants us to be under His wings at all times, but we have free will to move in and out. And you might have had a real close relationship with God at one time, but because of a series of events, when that sudden moment occurred, you might not be in that same spot when you first came to know who He was.
But it's not like you weren't prepared. It's just that you made a choice.
Well, you were caught off guard at that moment.
You made a choice.
Kind of going through that right now.
You made a choice.
Wow.
You have to look at every boxer, every person who's fought in the ring. They're all prepared. All fighters are prepared to get to where they, especially if they're champions, and they get to the place where they're fighting for the title. They've been prepared. They've been prepared. It's just that at that moment, if you make the choice to back up versus duck, that could be fatal.
Right, and in our spiritual walk, that's the same thing.
It's a choice.
If you're not, it's like that small, still voice. If you have all this clutter in your head at that moment, you won't hear that small, still voice.
Yeah, and they tell you to duck instead of back up.
Right, but if
you back up instead of ducking, that you made a choice. still says I should duck, but you say, nah, I'm gonna back up. And that could be the very thing that caused you to get knocked out as a boxer. So this is what I'm saying. At those moments in life, you make a choice. It isn't that they weren't prepared. They were prepared. This is why he was in the fight in the first place. You were there because you were prepared for your position. You were prepared. You made a choice.
Oh no, you have to go through something in order to get to the next level.
Yeah, he had to go through something to sit on that throne. He was raised as a shepherd.
While he was on the throne.
Yeah, he was raised as a shepherd. He dealt with Saul. He went through Saul, and dealing with Saul was something of a trip in itself. But he made a choice when he got to that woman.
Okay. So if you're listening spiritually with your listening spiritual ears, when all of those moments come, you're making the wiser choice.
We would hope. We would hope that you are listening properly so that you can make the wiser choice.
You always have to go through something, though. I think the instructions he gives you is louder than some of the other ones. At least, maybe in my experience. Because you do make choices sometimes, and it may not be as favorable as far as the outcome. But you still get through it. You just have to go through something in life.
Oh, that's most definite. That's why
there's never a moment that you're not going to go through things.
Right.
You're constantly going through things.
That's why I said when you make an unwise choice, you're going to go through and you can get through it.
Yeah.
But it's as if you're going through the death, burial, and resurrection process again.
Yep. A couple of years ago that happened to me. My car accident. It was a mighty blow. And it just still kind of recovering from it too. But I'm getting through it.
Well, it's a good thing once we learn that God works in a systematic pattern. Like every example in those scriptures you see, whatever the pivotal moment was for that person, they got through it one way or the other. But if you go through God's instructions every time, you get through it, whether it's good or evil. And we assume just because it's good that we're not going to have any challenges.
Yeah,
So if you go through God's instructions, then it's all good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're being led by what he's telling you, by his instructions, then it's got to be all good. Because he always means good for you.
Right. Which means you're adjusting when you need to adjust. You're bending when you need to bend. You're walking away when you need to walk away.
kind of reminds me of a person that if he was bent over most of his life, and his back was bent over, and basically all he could see is the ground when he walked because of the way his bones are. If you pulled on him quickly to straighten him up, that would be painful, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So during that pain, no matter how long it takes you to straighten up, you're going in the right direction, but there is pain. You're being adjusted. So that's how our walk is. We're not walking upright, but as God is straightening us up, we're going through an adjustment, and in that adjustment there is some pain, because now our body has to operate in a different position, a position that it's not used to operating in, because it became accustomed to operating bent over. So now in straightening up, there's some pain. Just like when we grow up from puberty, you can feel the aches in your knees as you're growing. Those are growing pains. Or you can feel the pain in the breast as you're developing. So that's all part of growing pain. But you must go through the change or the transition in order to get to the place of maturity. The place of maturity is where you can hear the Lord and respond on a mature level, and it's no longer painful.
But acceptance of your purpose is key.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Yep. As long as you fight it and don't flow with it.
Excruciating, yeah.
Right. Because that's why he asked. That's exactly why the question was asked Saul. He said, "Is it hard for you to kick against the pricks?" That's why. No, but you keep bucking against this. Is it hard? To kick against the pricks? And not many people understand what the pricks, what that originally comes from. They used to have a donkey tied when a donkey was pulling a cart. They put these spikes behind the donkey so that the donkey would kick up, because he didn't want to pull the cart anyway, So he would kick up and hit those spikes when he kicked. So that kept him from kicking. So he learned not to kick. You like to kick, you want to kick this cart, huh? You want to keep kicking.
Yeah.
Okay, well, every time you do that, you're going to hit these spikes, and you'll stop that.
Yeah.
So that's what it's like. When the Lord wants to take you somewhere or do something with you, you keep bucking and kicking against it.
Yeah.
It's going to be painful and uncomfortable to you.
Yeah.
So eventually, you'll stop all that kicking. And start flowing and start going in the direction that he wants you to go into, just like the donkey. I want you to go in the direction I want you to go into, so you'll stop all that bucking. Better use that energy to walk straight.
Yeah.
And I guess from those experiences, we just live and learn. And as we live, we learn and we can live better. But do anyone have any?
You mentioned some other scriptures pertaining to, and you went through them kind of quickly. Some of the little scriptures that you brought up.
And we talked about David and Saul, which seems to be our favorite. We even talked about Joshua and his brothers and how they threw him in the pit to die.
Right. Now you said that because
Joseph, sorry.
You said Joseph, that they came against Joseph? That's what you said, that they came against Joseph. And what I'm saying is, they really didn't come against Joseph. They went against the Lord. Because what did Joseph do? He shared a vision that his stock of wheat would be was exalted above theirs. And the father and the brother said, "Oh, you're going to be above us," you know.
Yeah.
So that provoked them to, I guess, you could say, jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
And we know jealousy is as cruel as a grave. Jealousy causes people to do all kind of ugly things when they're jealous of you. But, you know, jealousy is a funny thing. Most people that are jealous of you are not willing to do what you did to get where you are.
Yep.
They want to sit back and look at what you have and hate on you because they're too lazy to do it themselves. No, you got it, and I'm gonna sit back and be jealous. But you're too lazy to get up and do it yourself. You won't, but you don't want to get up and work for it. You don't want to suffer for it. You don't want to go through the time studying for it. You don't want to spend any, Or if God gives a man a gift, and the gift is not work for it. If God gives you a gift, it's not work for it, but there is a price. To every gift that God gives a man, there is a price attached with it. Because that man will go through something carrying that gift. There is a price. It comes with a price. And people are even jealous of that, and they don't understand that this gift comes from God, but there's a price attached with it. You think it's glamorous and stuff to have certain things that God is able to show, certain men, but there's an attachment to it. There's definitely a price that goes along with it, which, if it is not your anointing, if it is not your gift, you will not be able to bear. And much given, much is required. To whom much is given, much is required. God doesn't give you something without expecting a return, like the Lord of the land who gave servants certain talents. He didn't give them certain talents without expecting a return. Every time something's given, something is required.
Yeah, ebb and flow to everything in life.
Right. So Joseph basically stated what God had given him, and they hated on him for it.
And that's why sometimes when God gives you stuff, you need to stay quiet. But in that instance, it appears that in order to get the ball rolling, he had to share with him, so he didn't get thrown in the pit.
However the circumstance would have come out, he would have gotten there.
Well, it's the same with Yeshua. He was spreading different news around, and look what happened. Stuck him up till he died. He ruffled a lot of feathers, teaching the things that we're trying to practice today. And it took for him to die, for everyone to take heed of it.
And we see the same thing today, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Martin Luther, Malcolm X.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
Same thing.
This one guy, you know, is hollering, and one guy's hollering and spearheading a movement. You got a few around you who are helping you, but the majority is just riding, you know, riding on the wagon, not really caring which way the wagon goes. We're just riding. We're there. You see our presence, but you don't really know where we're standing. So you have a lot of those. And then, like I said, you have the few helping pull that wagon in the direction in which you want to go. And then you do have the obvious people who are pulling against.
Right.
You know, the ones that really don't like what you're doing. At least they're out front with what their agenda is.
That goes back to God not wanting us to be hot or cold.
Exactly.
And He don't want us to be lukewarm.
That's the ones riding in the middle.
Right.
The lukewarm is riding on the wagon, saying, well, whichever way it goes, any way the wind blows. You know, if they win, I'll go with them. If they win, I'll go with them. Isn't that an ugly thing?
Well, that's why God handles those people worse than He handled the other two.
Of course, because the other two at least have a definite position.
Right.
And the Creator can always use a person who has a definite position.
Right.
Because maybe the person who is not doing what he's supposed to do, that has a definite position, at least understands that, hey, well, this is what I like to do, so I'm doing it, and this is why I do. So he may just need some tweaking. He may just need a better understanding to show him, you know, the error of his way. So that the same energy and the same process he has for doing things in the opposite direction, he can now turn and do it in the right direction, such as the case with Saul, whose name was changed to Paul. He was very diligent about what he believed, very sincere about what he believed and what he was doing against the so-called Christian church. But then on the road to Damascus, right?
Yes.
Alright, the road that where he saw the light shining down and it knocked him off the horse. And he said, "Who are you?" And the boy said, "I am Yeshua, whom you persecute. Is it hard for thee to kick against the pricks?" And then he was told to go to a street called Straight Street, where Ananias would give him back his sight, because he was blinded by the light. But he was told what street to go on, and a man there will return his sight.
And he's a good example of someone who was on the evil side.
So,
yes,
that's what I'm saying.
And
That's
as soon
what I
as he
said.
had his experience with God,
yeah.
he didn't get in the middle. He went all the way to the opposite side.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, either way, he was sold out.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Right.
That was my example of going from opposite to opposite. And I was like, I can use that guy. I can't use you when you're in the middle. At least when you're in the opposite, I can take you from this direction to this direction. But when you're standing in the middle, you don't care which direction it's going in. You think whatever comes up, those are the people, like the ones that, example, Noah and the ark. If I could use this example of the people waiting around, never rained before, now somebody's saying it's going to rain. Why should I believe something like that? Well, you keep building this thing, and if it starts raining, we'll get on.
Right.
No.
Versus
You see?
assisting them.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No.
But they-
You see, I'm just riding in the middle here, and if it rains, we'll get on.
And they talked about him like a dog in the process.
Yeah.
Now, the rain came so fast and so hard, and also it says that God sealed the doors on the ark.
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? If it was up to Noah, of course he would have opened the door if he could have.
Mm-hmm.
Of course he would.
That's because of his heart condition.
Well, sure. You couldn't stand to see people suffering and drowning.
Yeah, even though they persecute.
Right.
Right, even though they were there. When it comes down to the real deal, when it's happening, you forget about all that was said.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes down to the real deal. Some of the people have treated you the worst. If it came down to a life and death situation where you had to save them, chances are you would help them.
Mm-hmm.
Very few people would walk away and say, well, suit yourself. You know, and go for what you know, all that talk you were giving me back then. Yeah, let's see you get out of this one.
But those are probably the people that God favor. The people who will actually walk away.
Mm. Yeah, there's, like I said, a person that has real love in his heart.
Right, he's going to help you.
He's going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes down to, you being spared, he might let you tangle with it for a little while, but when he sees you're actually going to be in danger of your life, he'll come through. Or I might let a few big mouth people wrestle with it for a little while. I might sit back for a little while and say, yeah, I remember that big mouth you had, and you were running it when you had your strength and your health, and you're up in my face. Now let's see what you can do. Oh, you can't. Oh, ooh, you can't take that, huh? Ooh, you can't take that, huh? I just wait for you to stick your hand up and say, hey, I really need you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the case in marriages as well, too. We see. We're just waiting for that one who thinks they got it all together to say, Uncle, I need you. I really need you. I can't do this, but I thought I could. I thought that I could just do this, and the other, and everything's gonna be okay. But I see that I really need you, and that I didn't treat you right, and I didn't do the things I should have done for you, and I can't bear this burden. And sometimes we stay in those relationships too long waiting to hear them holler uncle. And precious time should be spent with somebody who's ready to receive it. But wherever you are, you still are in a position where either you're hot or cold. You're better off than being lukewarm. What were the other scriptures that you mentioned?
David's sudden experience when he became king of Israel. And I mentioned Saul. Let's see.
Yeah, David, you're talking about somebody with some real impact. David had real impact throughout so many of the characters in the scripture. David had real impact. I mean, just as soon as you're anointed, you're fighting a giant. As soon as you're anointed, you're fighting a giant. Not the boy around the corner,
Right.
but you're thrust into fighting the giant.
But prior to his anointing, he was already fighting. He was fighting lions and bears and tigers.
This is why I say when you said preparation, that's what I meant. I said he was prepared. He just didn't get there and he wasn't prepared. He was prepared to deal with a lot of things, but there are levels of other things that every man is not prepared for. There's things that have come against all of us that we haven't really dealt with. Oh, we've seen it, we've heard it, but never experienced it to that magnitude. And when it hits you, you're not prepared. It would be like in your situation or mine right now, of a very beautiful, rich, popular woman came your way, and she was hounding you to be with you, just to have some of your attention, just to want to be around you. I just want to hear the things that you talk about, and they just do so much for me, and blah 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 blah. And she's constantly on you, calling you and praising you and giving you all the accolades that you would love to actually hear. Mm-hmm. Even bringing you flowers sometimes, you know. Guys like flowers too, you know. And she send them on your job with balloons and cards all the time, just saying how you are and just wishing you well and all that. And when you talk, she just reverence everything you say and savor it, you know. Eventually, being also wealthy and good looking and popular, she can have you. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Oh, absolutely.
She can have you. Well, yeah, because all that surface stuff is all good.
Mm-hmm. The whole package is real good. Mm-hmm. If I'm lifting you up, saying everything that you need to hear to build you up in your confidence, and every time you talk to this person, they make you feel like you're the king of the hill. Mm-hmm. Who doesn't want that? You don't really have. Everybody. It doesn't have to be material things. It's just right. What you were saying to me that makes me feel like a man. Mm-hmm. Don't add the good looks and the wealth with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, babe, here's my car. Take it. If you need a ride or something, take it. You can use this as long as bring it back when you feel like it. You know, or here's this, or here, you know, I saw, you know, I saw this suit, and I know, I saw the size on your suit, and I know you, and I thought this would look nice on you. And here, you know, you can be overwhelmed when what you got on the other side is dogging you, or knocking you, or putting you down, or not giving you those things. Mm-hmm. It's easy. Any fool can make a decision from that standpoint. All it is hold your hands out. Which has got air, and which has got, you know, something solid in it. It's like, okay, this one weighs more than this one. Hey, this is, you know. Easy to see that. So like I said, those are situations that if you get hit strong enough with one of those, you know, it would have to be the Almighty to make you stay in a position where you don't even see daylight in it. Mm-hmm. It would have to be God, because He's the only one, you know, can talk to your heart like that, past what you're seeing and what you're experiencing. Mm-hmm. To remain in a situation where you don't see any hope for it. That's the only one who can cause you to persevere in a situation like that.
Right.
Other than that, you know, yeah, you would go. You would say, hey, well, this weighs more than this. I don't want that over there. This can't hold a feather to this.
And as you always say, until the smoke screen clears.
That's right.
Yep.
And when the smoke clears, when it's all said and done, then you see the work, or what it is. Whatever it is that you have done, you see the weight of. You'll see it then when the smoke clears. After you do what you do. Now, it seems like after that person pulls the trigger and the smoke clears, right, then your better judgment then seems to be there. At the time, rage is what's prevailing. Rage is telling you to do this or do this, and it really sounds like the right thing to do when rage is having its way in you.
And that was the same thing with David. And it's like one thing, when you look at his life, because of him staying at home, he had a child, he had to kill the woman's husband. The child died, and from that point on, it was turmoil in his house.
And not that he killed them with his own hands, but you put him in the heat, you put the man in the heat of the battle, knowing that this would be probably the result. This would probably be the result. I can have him waxed by sending him into the heat of the battle because he's the leader. He's the captain. I'll send him. He's got to lead. He's got to lead this charge, and chances are he'll be killed. We don't talk about this much, but isn't it something how, yeah, he sent this Captain Uriah,
Right.
In the heat of the battle, but they did take it. They took that wall that he sent them against. But not only did you cause Uriah, or Urias, I think it was Urias, to be killed in that taking of that wall. Just think of all the other guys that went with him. Because you wanted this done. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just him. He was leading other men. So just because of something you did over here, and you had to get rid of him, well, he's a leader. So when he goes, they go too.
Yeah.
So you're not only going to get him killed because of what you're doing over here, but other people that he's leading are going to die as well,
Right.
because they have to follow their leader.
Yeah.
So it goes back to one of the things you always tell me: play chess in your head before you make a move.
Yeah, and if you did that, you would say, not only would I have him killed, there would be other women and families, mothers and fathers, who will be missing a son this day because of my folly. You see? Interesting, isn't it? And this is what happens in our country. We send these boys off to these places. Why? Because of a few men's greed. They want the oil, they want this, they want that. So I'm going to send your sons off to go over there and fight for something that's going to really benefit my pocket primarily. Because life doesn't mean a whole lot to these people. What are some of the other scriptures that you mentioned as well? You mentioned enough of them where I wanted to.
Pretty much as far as example, those are all the scriptures. There's a lot more, but those are all the ones I just mentioned this morning. The other
Thessalonians and
the other scriptures that I mentioned were scriptures to support the fact that God wants us to be ready. Like 2 Timothy 4:2. To be prepared in and out of season in our life. Or Matthew 25:13, telling us to watch, therefore, because you don't know the day nor the hour in which he's going to appear in your life. 1 Thessalonians 5:2 said when he show up, he's going to come as a thief in the night.
Do you recall the example of the thief in the night that we were taught?
Actually, no, I don't recall.
The candles lit, which is supposed to remain burning in the temple. It was a candle that was supposed to remain burning always, symbolic of the Holy Spirit in your life. It's supposed to always abide, it should always be there. The light represents the Spirit, and never to go out. So the priest that was responsible for maintaining this candle to make sure that it stayed lit, whoever's watch it was to be there to make sure this lamp, this light stayed lit, was never to go to sleep during his watch. And if he went to sleep during his watch, the high priest would sometimes come by and check. And if the high priest saw that he had fallen asleep during his duty, his watch, then he would burn his tzitzit. The tzitzit were the 8 strands that hung down off of his tallit. And so he would burn his tzitzit, so when the man woke up, his tzitzit were on fire, and the man was gone, and the high priest was gone.
So he knew he was exposed.
He knew he was exposed, and everybody else would know too. You see? That a sign was left to show that you weren't doing your job. When we see other symbols in the scripture where a sign was left to mark a people, to show what they had done, like the lack of pigmentation.
Right.
We see 4 examples of that. That's a sign showing what you had done, what your people had done. And you could be the descendant of that person, so you still carry that sign. So that others would know, okay, and be able to identify readily what the deal is, you know, in your line. This is why people had to wear certain color tallits. It identified their virginity. If you were a virgin, you wore a multicolored garment. It meant that you were a virgin, for one. So your status was worn externally so that other people would understand your status. And this is where white comes from. White is not pigmentation, it's a class. And as you see, the Moors wore white because they were the ruling class. So they were the white people. And if you look in Black's Law book, Black's Law Dictionary, you'll find that to be true. The 4th edition, unabridged, it says that white does not refer to Caucasian or Aryan nation. So these terms and things have been turned upside down and used to control people. But if you do your research, you'll find that they're used inaccurately. But this is why gangs wear their different colors as well. You know, gangs, they may not have the real understanding, and they just, okay, this is our color, this is what we have, this is our color. One has red, one has blue, somebody else wear. You see what I'm saying? It is a mark that identifies who you are with, or who your loyalty is with.
So what happened in the event you're referring to colors? Speaking about the virgins, I can only imagine back then that even if you weren't a virgin, you were supposed to be a virgin, you still gonna wear that flowery garment.
I would imagine a lot of them tried. I would imagine a lot of them did that.
So,
if they didn't want their you know, anybody else to know.
Yeah.
then I imagine they did do that.
So it was no problem if you end up getting with the same guy that tainted you.
That's right.
But
right.
the problem came in if that guy didn't want you.
Exactly.
So what was the penalty for that?
And this is why, even in this day, there are certain groups, not mentioning any names, any of these groups, that these young ladies will perform anal sex instead of vaginal sex. So that when they get married, they say, oh, I'm a virgin. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I know of these groups and these people that do this.
I've heard of that too. I don't know what group you're talking about.
So that's just like that. You're trying to mask this. But see, the thing is, because our teaching is not accurate in the land. We're not teaching our children the proper things as a whole. You know, just a few families here and there and a few families getting it is not widespread enough to make a difference in the land over a quicker period of time. Yeah, it makes a difference. It's a slower process, but it's not like it's put on mass media and made known, you know, faster, greater to the numbers.
Well, we live in a land where you have choice, and with that choice,
But the
there isn't anything common amongst the people.
That's what I mean. That comes from education.
Yeah.
You know, how can I make a choice when I'm not educated?
Right.
How can I choose wisely when I'm not shown wisdom?
Because in other countries, their beliefs is their way of life.
That's right. And this is what we do. This is what we've always done. This is what my mom has done. This is what our daddy. This comes down from thousands of years. But you come into a place that's only been around 400 years. 400 measly little years.
Yeah.
And this is the way it is. Well, other countries laugh. You know, we've been around thousands of years. And you guys have these practices. Why? Most of these practices are here just to keep certain people in check, just to keep you in order, just to keep you doing what we want you to do. 400 measly years, when you're talking about history, is absolutely nothing.
True. Well, it's 400 years into this situation.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And I use that strongly. Situation.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. 400 years in this situation. That's not history at all. Now, you don't want to talk about who were the people here originally that already had government, already had a structure, already had, you know, that history is never talked about, because then you would empower the very people that you're trying to control.
But when you go back to 400 years, it seems like that seems to be a perfect number for bondage. So which means changes are taking place.
Oh, they definitely are, because there's information. It says knowledge is wisdom or knowledge is falling in the streets. And what causes knowledge to be falling in the streets is this computer.
Right, absolutely.
The internet and stuff like that. People are sharing information like that.
Yeah.
And that causes the knowledge to be widespread. This is why they're also being fought. You know, different things in the computer now are being fought, because there are people getting a hold of things that, of course, the man never thought that
absolutely
would be so widespread, so available.
And it goes back to drugs. We don't bring drugs into the country, but we only going to feed the drugs to this community.
Right. They start out saying we're going to bring the drugs in the country and feed the inner city, and we'll make a profit and have them killing each other off. Oh, that sounds like a real good plan. But when it gets out into other neighborhoods, oh, now it's a problem. Oh, hey, hey, who's doing this? Oh, we got to get the responsible ones. When the responsible ones come from the top.
Mhm.
Charge. We don't want to take over someone else's.
On that note, if there is no more comments, we're going to close for today.